So, welcome to day number 1 of my Inktober project. And for those of you who are new to my channel or haven't seen previous videos where I have talked about this, my plan is to do a video for each and every day of Inktober. Now, I actually did this last year on another channel that I had, but at one point within the month, I ended up shifting to a schedule that was moved over one day. It really just worked a lot better for me in the long run, so I decided that this year I would just set it up that way from the beginning. I also want to address the fact that I don't have a intro face cam bit to this video. There may be a few videos throughout the month where I intro with a face cam, but keeping it completely real, I am not put together well enough for camera every day, and so I'm not planning on doing that. And so we're just going to go with this for at least this month. So moving more into this video specifically, I wanted to use this first one as a way to introduce my project in a sense. I wanted to talk about the supplies I'm going to be using, certain through themes, the overall concept, etc., etc. And the first thing I want to talk about is actually prompts. Now, I am not using the official Inktober prompt list. I think I might have taken a couple of words off of it, but essentially what I ended up doing was picking words that I personally found inspiring and that I thought would actually inspire me to create. I wrote them down on half index cards, folded them up, and put them into a hat. A hat that I think I probably wore on this channel at one point, and it's kind of out of commission right now. You will have already seen me draw the first prompt, and it was skull, but I do plan to actually have a secondary drawing at the end of this video so that you kind of have something to look forward to tomorrow. Now, I was pretty happy with the word skull as my first prompt, mostly because I draw a lot of skulls, both human and bird. There's just something about them that I find very intriguing, and it adds a certain element of something darker and creepier, which I always really enjoy doing. And as such, this made it kind of the perfect prompt to ease me into the month. I do plan on doing some more complicated pieces, but as the first day, I wanted to do something that I knew I would be able to complete and be happy with, just to kind of give myself that encouragement. Now, as I mentioned, I also did Inktober last year, and additionally the year before. But last year is the one I was really focusing on when I was kind of conceptualizing what I wanted to do in 2018. In a certain sense, I kind of consider this year's Inktober a continuation of last year's, albeit a little more refined. Now, for those of you that did see my Inktober last year, you may have noticed that one of my through themes, my repeating motifs, had to do with birds. This was primarily in the form of wings. However, with this piece, when I was doing my thumbnailing, I had the idea to draw a bird skull. And I've drawn bird skulls before, but it just felt kind of fitting. I kind of briefly thumbnailed both. You probably will have seen that in the beginning of this video. But ultimately, I decided on a bird skull-like mask over the face of a human woman. I also tried to add a lot of details, even though the overall composition of this piece was fairly simple. I tried to push even the basic portrait in the fact that there are some feathers in the background and the beak extends past the kind of framing of the illustration. And I also added quite a bit of detail to this woman's top. For me, Inktober has always been a time of learning. It's been a time to push myself and see what I'm capable of, as opposed to staying in one place. So even though I was trying to ease myself into the project with this first illustration, I still wanted to add a lot of details and make it interesting. Now, kind of moving on to materials, the main pens I've decided to use for my line work are microns. I just like the level of control that they give, and with pieces that I want to look nice in a final form, so to speak, I don't like the risk that comes with brush pens, especially because it's been a little while since I've used a brush pen, and I'm probably pretty rusty. As for the overall color, quote-unquote, of the piece, I'm primarily going to be using Higgins India ink. There is a possibility that I may run out of that ink, as that is primarily what I used last year, and I've used it quite a bit since then as well. And if I repurchase something different, I will definitely let you know what that is. Again, this was kind of my way of expanding on last year's Inktober project. The supplies I used were very similar. In a lot of my Inktober pieces from 2017, I actually did add color accents, specifically using Liquitex ink in the color Muted Pink. And there is a very good possibility that that ink will make an appearance at some point during this month, because I so liked the way that the color of that looked with the black and white. So that's just something to keep in mind for the future. I am also working on Strathmore watercolor paper in the same way that I did last year. And this is 140-pound paper that I get off of Amazon in bulk. This paper has just always served me very well, and as long as it's taped down, it tends to stay pretty flat, even when I'm using a heat gun to dry it. Now, what I'm actually doing differently this year is that I've decided to keep a consistent size for all of my Inktober pieces. Last year, I just kind of did whatever I thought fit, but this time I really want to challenge myself to create within specific guidelines. And the guidelines I have chosen are 5x7 rectangles. I have given myself the stipulation that it can be a vertical or horizontal format, but that is the only difference in shape, I suppose, that I'm allowed. I also haven't really worked with 5x7 size a lot. I typically will do either 4x6 or 8x10, and this is kind of smack dab right in the middle. I initially thought that I was going to do all 4x6 illustrations, but the more I thought about it, the more I wondered if that would really be enough space to do what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do some more adventurous designs and some more detailed illustrations, and so 4x6 just seemed a little too small for my goals, but I didn't want to do 8x10. I wanted to do something different. So I ultimately decided on 5x7, and it has worked fairly well thus far. Hopefully I don't have a moment at some point in the month where I wish I had more space, but we'll see what happens. The last thing I kind of wanted to mention is that I felt completely and utterly unprepared for this. And it was really strange because I thought that I was prepared and I felt like I was prepared. I had definitely tried out a lot of different things and had done a lot of brainstorming and just generally had put everything together in my mind. But when it came to actually sit down to do this illustration this morning, it was rough. I couldn't find my new pens. I have a bunch of new 005 microns somewhere in my room, and I just could not find them to save my life. I had to use an old micron that was actually the same size, but as I mentioned in my inks video, I'm pretty heavy-handed and hard on my pens, and so this one was kind of falling apart, and you will probably see me struggle with that. Another thing you might have seen me struggle with was the light box itself. I could not find the connection cable that went with the light box, and so I stole one from my Xbox. But because it wasn't made to go with the light box, the connection was kind of wonky, and so the dimness kept going in and out, and I basically had to adjust myself from there. So basically, I'm just holding on to hope that tomorrow will go a little bit better. Maybe I'll be a little more prepared, and at least I'll know where my substitute supplies are if I don't know where my primary ones are. And hopefully the month will just generally go smoothly. Though with monthly challenges, it's hard to say what will happen. So if you've actually made it this far, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed watching me do this illustration because I had a lot of fun with it despite my struggles with supplies. And I'm going to transition us into the final part of this video where I pick the prompt for tomorrow's drawing. So here's my finished piece for day 1 of Inktober. And now that we have this completed, it's time to move on to the next step, which is picking tomorrow's prompt. Here I have my hat full of prompts that I have written down, and I'm just going to pick one. This makes me so nervous. All right, here we go. And the prompt is dress. Now, I'm pretty happy with this prompt. I think that there are some interesting directions that I could take it in, or I could just keep it very simple if that's what I chose to do instead. So this gives you all something to look forward to for tomorrow. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my process for day 1 of Inktober. You can subscribe to see both what I do with the word dress as well as various other prompts throughout the month. And I will see you guys tomorrow.